It's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order for the January 14th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Coach Boardman, would you lead us, please?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're up.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Real quick, I was incidentally at a UConn basketball game a couple weekends ago with our esteemed athletic director, actually, and they unfurled this big banner that said UConn World Capital for Basketball or something like that. And I thought we need one of those for Farmington that says Farmington State Capital for Soccer, because 14 state championships in 50 years is a really tremendous accomplishment, with your team getting the most recent one. So thank you very much from all of us. So here is your proclamation. Whereas on November 17th, 2024, the Farmington Riverhawks boys soccer team was crowned CIAC Class LL state champions for the 14th time in history, 50 years after the program's first state championship. And whereas under the leadership and guidance of head coach Nick Borman, assistant coaches Charles Butterfield, Abe Gleb, Conrad Krupa, Daniel Larkham, Sulav Mukherjee, Jessen Pozo, the Farmington Riverhawks boys soccer team faced off against Xavier High School in the state championship at the Trinity Health Stadium in Hartford, defeating the Falcons 3-1, with senior Logan Drozd being named Class LL Tournament MVP, and the team earning the #1 ranking in the final polls in the state of Connecticut. And whereas in the summer leading up to the season, the team held a pivotal meeting to discuss their goals and aspirations and collectively expressed their desire to elevate their program, a Class L school on paper, the team elected to compete at the Class LL level, the state's largest and most competitive division, which showcased their confidence, drive, and hunger to face tougher competition, allowing them to set the tone for a season fueled by ambition. And whereas the Farmington Town Council recognizes the Town of Farmington boys soccer team senior members Brandon Barbosa, Jacob Bauer, Miguel Bolanos Vasquez, Sean Canada, Michael Del Sisto, Logan Drozd, Grayson Ellis, Christian Fierro, Isaac Figueroa Echeverria, Ethan Halstead, Aiden Huang, Andre Kalavenka, Aiden Massey, Kelvin Mucka, Justin Painter, Rupesh Raparla, Jarly Valley Ordonez, Luke Wagner, Gabriel Wilczak, junior members Jacob Carrier, William D'Elia, Dante Fierro, Alex Coots, Ian Manton, Bryce McMahon, Keen Murphy, Colin Plickus, Nathaniel Ross, Cole Ruskowski, Colin Stabel, Evan Wall, sophomore members Cody Rayburn, Nicholas Simeone, freshman member Samuel Baldwin, for holding on to their beliefs with great tenacity and representing Farmington with high character, sportsmanship, and team unity. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Farmington Town Council, in recognition of the accomplishment of the Farmington High School boys soccer team, hereby proclaims January 14th, 2025 as Farmington High School Boys Soccer Team Day. Dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this the 14th day of January, 2025. Joe Capitafaro, Chair. Have your official proclamation, Coach, if you want to come and grab it and maybe say a couple words. And
Absolutely.
there you go. Congratulations.
Wow, it's amazing. Thank you very much. To the whole town council, thank you so much for having us here. This truly is an honor. These gentlemen here tonight, and the ones that couldn't make it, they are what Farmington is all about. They represent Farmington with high character. They're extremely hard workers. They're incredible students, and they persevere through everything. I couldn't be more proud as a coach. They dominated on the field. They truly were the best team in Connecticut this year, and in many people's minds, outside of the program, the best team in a long time in Connecticut as well, too. But with that being said, they are way better off the field. They're already making Farmington proud on the field, and they're going to continue to do so upon graduation. These guys are incredible human beings, and I can't wait to see what the future brings. So thank you so much for this great honor, and I expect all of them to be back to continue to make the Farmington community amazing. One of our captains, Ethan Halstead, would like to say a few words as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ethan Halstead.
Come on up to the mic.
You're not getting away that easy. Come on.
I'm Ethan Halstead. I was a senior captain this year, and I'd just like to say some thank yous on behalf of the whole team. So first of all, as Coach said, thank you guys for holding this. I'd like to thank the AD, Mr. Martorelli. We all know how much work he puts in to the success of the soccer program. I'd like to thank all the parents. They invest so much in us, all the time, effort, and money, whether it's taking us on trips to Virginia for FSA or whatever. They really invested in our success from day one. I'd like to thank Coach. He's another person who spends so much time for us, all these late nights watching film, traveling to wherever to watch other teams play. We all know he's the best coach in CT. We couldn't have asked for a better coach to lead us to the state championship this year. And lastly, I'd like to thank the town of Farmington. We couldn't have done it without them. They were there at Trinity Health, cheering us on the whole time. We really got the whole town out, and their support really pushed us to do better. Thank you.
I have to say, I was at the game, and it was amazing to watch. To be with everybody on that sideline and in the crowd, it was just jumping and roaring. And the way you guys fought, the goals you guys made, it was not like watching a high school game. I really felt like I was watching a professional team play. You guys had great continuity. You played well together, and it was the greatest outcome ever. So please, all of you guys come up on the dais with us. We'll take a group shot so we can personally thank you.
We all know that kid from Xavier was offsides in that goal too.
Made the game interesting.
Yeah.
Do we sit?
No, you said I was going to shake their hand.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Dave, put your mic.
Sure.
Get into the light. There you go.
You guys put your mics down.
And Farmington's not a soccer town, it's the soccer town. Matt, come on in the picture too. Get on this one.
Maura, did you get one? I did. All right.
Great.
Thank you. Coach.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you all, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for having us.
Hope to have you again next year.
That's right, we'll be back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right. We have no public hearing. New items, we have none. We will go to public comment. Anybody in the chambers like to say public comment, please step up to the podium. State your name, and you have 5 minutes. Tim, you're not the only one tonight.
Oh, okay, well, I'll head us up here, I'll lead us off. Tim Kelly, 62 Westview. It's a new year, and that brings us into a new budget planning season. Tonight, I believe the council will discuss budget targets for the coming fiscal year, which starts July 1st. It may be helpful to put in context our most recent budget history before we look forward. For our current budget year of 2024-25, Farmington increased expenditures overall 6.05%. Canton increased expenditures 3.99%. Simsbury increased theirs 3.97%. West Hartford 3.49%. Glastonbury 2.97%. And Avon 2.96%. So Farmington was 50 to 100% higher than comparable neighbors. That's quite a baseline. In your meeting package, there is a 3.4% inflation number called out. I'm not sure where that came from, whether it was a one-month view or perhaps a look-back number extending back to 2023. Anyway, as you know, the Federal Reserve is responsible for monitoring and managing inflation. The latest Fed PCE inflation outlook is for 2025, 2.5%. For 2026, 2.2%, and then the out year 2027, 2%. By the way, the Social Security cost of living increase for 2025 is 2.5%. These data points are important to consider whether you are planning a one-year budget or negotiating a 3-year contract. So let me close with this cumulative history. The PCE inflation rate over the past 4 years totals 16.5%. The 4-year Farmington tax increase total, 21%. A council budget process that delivers a plan with 5% plus expenditure and tax increases would not be appropriate or in the best interest of constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Anybody else, please come up, state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes. Individual.
Ann Newberry, 23 Hatters Lane, Farmington.
And Beth Kittner, 24 Farmstead Lane in Farmington.
Good evening. Tonight, we are speaking about our compensation as your registrars of voters for the town. There are 2 items. First, the stipends we are requesting from the early voting funds that were issued to Farmington from the state. And second, our salary for 25-27 through 2027. Beth will address our salary, and I'll now speak to the stipends from the early voting funds. I would like to begin by saying the Secretary of State, Stephanie Thomas, made clear that the use of the early voting grant funds given to towns could be applied toward pay for the registrars. And all of you have a copy of that notice in your packet. In 2024, there were 3 early voting events. There was the presidential preferential primary, April 2nd, with 4 days of early voting, the end of March. In August, there was a U.S. Senate primary by the Republican Party for 7 days. And in November, there were 14 days of early voting before the presidential general election on November 5th. For each of these early voting events, the registrars must find and train poll workers how to use the Connecticut Voter Registration System, known as CVRS. The registrars set up passcodes for each worker on CVRS, and CVRS is totally new to the workers, so we were required to assist during the day with all manner of technical difficulties they had. Just so you know, being a poll worker for early voting is entirely different from being a poll worker at the polls. Additional staffing for early voting in 2024 required a minimum of 5 workers for all but the August early voting events. There were more than 200 hours of early voting in 2024. In November's general presidential election, in addition to the voters checking in to vote, there was also same-day registration for new voters each day of early voting. Therefore, a registrar or one of the deputy registrars needed to be present to register new voters and then allow that person to vote. Often, that meant calling another town to make sure that the person now registering to vote in Farmington hadn't already voted in the town where they were coming from. And in addition, the same was true. Towns called us as they were registering voters to make sure that the voter from Farmington hadn't voted in Farmington before going to the other town. At the end of the night, all envelopes with voted ballots were counted and locked up in a secure, fireproof file cabinet until the next day when the registrars transferred the envelopes, called chain of custody, to the town clerk, where they were again counted and put in the town vault. At the end of the evening, after cleaning up the pavilion where early voting occurred, the registrars locked up the pavilion and also town hall. The additional hours required of the registrars, whether it was an 8-hour day or a 12-hour day of early voting for 4 or 7 or 14 consecutive days, meant we needed to be available the entire time, often putting in 12 and 13-hour days consecutively. And as many of you may know, early voting was very popular this past fall. In those 14 days of early voting in Farmington, there were more than 7,000 voters who voted early and 750 new voters. Based on the increased hours leading up to early voting and during the early voting sessions, we are recommending the following stipends for the registrars from the early voting funds received from the state.
And you're
March.
at 5 minutes.
What?
You're at 5. So if we're going to do 10, you're at 5, so.
I don't know what he's saying.
You're at
For
5.
5 minutes.
Oh.
You want to just say that they have the copies?
Okay, you have copies of what we asked for. So I'll stop.
Thank you.
And Anne had herself timed right at 5 minutes. You got pretty close. So every 2 years, the town council sets the salary of the registrar's new term. So that may be new for some of you who have just joined the council, but we understand that the council will be considering the salaries of the registrars for our new term, 2025 to 2027, between now and your February 11th meeting. So we wanted to take the opportunity to let you know some information, explain what we do year-round in a typical week, and what we do to prepare for and run an election or referendum, and give you some other information that we think will be helpful in your consideration of our requested salary increase. So the registrar's job has changed quite a bit over the years. There was a 10-year increase in the voter rolls of 19.5% and a 20-year increase of 28%. So things were already kind of gearing up prior to the start of our new term in 2023. New tabulators and electronic poll books were implemented all within the past 15 years. And in the past 2 years, as you know, just since we took office in 2023, we've had to plan and manage and implement the early voting program. And we have more changes coming this year. New tabulators in the spring, which are very much needed, and that should be prior to our budget referendum in May, and a new voter registry system that we need to learn. So we're going to be doing a lot of training of ourselves, and then training of our poll workers and other staff or deputies. So both these changes we expect to be some major adjustments during the learning curve. And so while the registrar's public hours are 3 days a week for a total of 15 hours a week, the job really requires 20 to 30 hours per week just to kind of accomplish the basic immediate needs and keep up on everything. Maintaining the voter rolls is one of the primary things we do. In the last year, we've done a total of 7,201 transactions, changes to the voter registry, whether that's additions, changes, removals. So that's a pace of about 28 to 47 transactions a day that we're in just to do the voter registry. And we do a canvass every year from January to April. We're required to reach out and contact voters registered in Farmington where it looks like they may have left town. That could be anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 letters that are mailed. They're supposed to respond back to us. And so that goes on for a number of weeks that we're processing that. So it's kind of another bump in our job and workload. Ann already talked about early voting. It was a lot. Registrars needed to be present quite a bit just to do troubleshooting and assisting moderators and staff because of how busy it was, along with SDR. So it was long hours, many days in a row, but what got us through was that voters were happy with the program. So that kind of pushed us to make it through those grueling days. So that paints a picture of what's involved in our work. But we did also look at salary comparisons to offer you. We surveyed registrars in other towns in Connecticut that are a similar size. I just want to caution everybody on the council that that is very difficult to do apples to apples because they work different hours. They may have office support staff. Their deputies might work near full-time or full-time. So there's a lot of differing factors there. But of those we surveyed, registrars earn between $29,500 a year and $56,900 a year. And you have a chart that lays it all out and gives you all the towns and what we were able to find out. Some receive stipends for voting events. Some of these registrars receive benefits. The registrars in Milford recently received an increase of 45%, and the West Hartford registrars' salaries were increased by 58% with additional stipends for voting events. And the town matches contributions for them to their deferred compensation plan. So they get some benefits. The other thing we looked at for comparison was town of Farmington employees. For another comparison, we looked at salaries of about 5 non-department head positions. And the average annual salary of those positions in 2023 was $85,200 a year. And that's a 35-hour work week. So if we prorate that to 25 hours a week, that is $60,492 annually plus benefits, and we don't get benefits. So this is more than twice the registrar's current salary, excluding the value of benefits. So overall, the salary for the registrars really just hasn't kept up with all the changes, especially those in the last 2 years. Registrars were typically given a modest raise for cost of living every 2 years, but there's just been such significant changes in the past 2 years that have added to the responsibilities, the knowledge and the skills and training that's required, and an increased workload.
That's 5 minutes, Beth.
Okay, so I should just at least say what we're requesting, if you don't mind, if you would give me that. So we're recommending that the town council set the registrar's annual salary for the 25-27 term at $42,300, and then with stipends for each voting event that kind of help even out whether or not we have 1 or 2 voting events in a year, or 2024, which was quite the killer with 4. So kind of helps even that out. We've joked before that we're sold a bill of goods. We didn't really know what we were getting into when we were considering taking on these positions. We were told it's a 15-hour job per week job, but really it's a lot more than that. But I just want to say we really love what we do. I think I can speak for Ann. We take it seriously. I think we've done a good job running elections in a way that's good for the Farmington voters, and so we've learned a lot, but
Thank you
we're
both
happy
very
to do the
much.
work. Thank you for the time.
Anybody else would like to step up and make public comment? Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay. Neil Kelsey, 42 Walnut Farms Drive in Farmington. I've been involved with elections, moderating, and working in the polls for over 10 years now. This past summer, I became deputy registrar as well. So I've seen the effort that went through that office, 10, 12 years ago, and I saw the effort this year. And what I can say is that the entire system has become so much more complex over that time. Early voting is just a piece of that, but that was a critical piece of it. Beth mentioned 10 to 13-hour days, really starting with October 1st this year, just to get ready for early voting, and then being there for 14 consecutive days, shepherding 7,000 people through and 750 same-day registrants. I'd also add that not only has the election become more complex, but there's a lot more focus on voter integrity. And when I was in the office testing tabulators and things like that this year, the phones were ringing consistently, 20, 30 calls in a couple of hours. People asking, because they were getting emails and they were getting postcards in the mail, make sure you're registered to vote before the election. So people were coming into the office, the phones were ringing, and that takes time from the registrars away from what the other stuff that they should be doing to run the election. So it just means more time, more effort, more complexity for them. CVRS is different technology. They mentioned that, so I won't elaborate on that. I would add, though, that on the weekends during early voting, it was the four of us, the two registrars and the two deputy. We were technical support. We were opening the building. We were shutting the building down, turning the heat on, turning the lights off, trying to troubleshoot computer programs as they came up. So that during those 2 weekends was critical. So the bottom line, increased hours and complexity of the election cycle has dramatically changed the roles and responsibilities of the registrars. And I believe that their salary needs to be commensurate with the new reality. This is all critical to run safe, secure, and fair elections, which I think we do a pretty good job of in the town, and I'd like to see that continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Don't be worried, I brought my notes with me and they're very tiny. I hope I can read them. My name is Edward Leary. I am a resident of 19 Whispering Rod Road, and I looked at the calendar the other day to discover this is my 50th year in town. So
Happy anniversary.
I guess I must like it because I'm still here. I have been the registrar of voters prior to these folks, working in the job for 22 years, and I've seen a lot of changes over that time, naturally, and I thought, well, maybe I should come in and talk about what was before and what is now. Who knows what the future will be. The job that I took was truly part-time back in the year 2000, and we were obligated to be in the office at least 3 days a week, and we were paid a fixed salary of $14,000 a year. And my wife said, go take it, get out of the house. So I did, and I'm there for 22 years after. But it's gotten more complex, as you've already heard, and it wasn't a tidal wave. It was a gradual change of new imposition of state-mandated changes, law requirements. Farmington grew in population, and lo and behold, instead of having one senator and one state representative and 2 polling places over about 15-year time period, we doubled. We had 4 of those representatives and 5 polling places. And that got to be quite a logistics effort. It required a lot of town help to get it organized and unorganized at the end of the cycle. And that's just an indicator of what's come with our voting system here in our town. I'm sure other towns have done similar reorganizations time and time again. And I was surprised to see these very capable people, after hearing my description of what goes on, said, yeah, I'll do that, I'll do that. That's nice, I can do that. But they have discovered there's a lot of nitty-gritty to the job that bogs you down, and you can hire people and try to push it all through, and that's fine, and that's what's necessary during push times. But along came early voting, and instead of having voting day, we've come to what I call voting month, because you have to go through an awful lot of rituals before, during, and after. Instead of you do it one day, you do it day after day after day after day. The crowds may not be big in any one day, but it's kind of like being on a treadmill. You can't get ahead because the next day is coming down your throat. So in my mind, it's been a little frustrating for the newcomers to get it all done, but they've done it. I haven't heard any complaints, any pending lawsuits. So you've got some good people here. And once I heard that they're not struggling, but troubled by the pay scales that were being open to them. I said, that's not right. We need to compensate them and the future registrars who are going to have more demands on their part too, to make it feel like it's a professional job, a worthwhile job, a job where they can buy more than groceries when they take the paycheck home. So I'm in there to promote the idea that they should have a pay, salary, or stipend that compensates them for the added burdens. Farmington's not the only town that's going through this. I have no idea how this is going to shake out. The state has overdone it. They've required too many voting days, in my opinion. It's increased the convenience for voting. It hasn't increased the turnout. That's the biggest disappointment. The turnout from other surveys I've seen doesn't go up. They just spread it out over the days available. And that to us is discouraging because you get ready, you're holding a party, you want everybody to show up, and only half the crowd shows up and you feel demoralized. Anyway, I know there's talk about surveying other towns for this thing, and I would caution the council to watch out for surveys because we have done this in the past for other purposes. Surveys of 169 different towns, if you ever get that information, is going to show you 50 different ways of doing business. And there's no way of saying, that's the one, or look what they've gone overboard in that. So when it comes down to it, you're going to have to use your gut and say, what's fair, reasonable, and then be willing, maybe 2 years hence, to revisit the equation because you said, you know, we didn't do something the way we should have. So they've proposed something, I've looked at it and said, oh, that's good. That's a real benefit to you. That's sort of an incentive to keep going. They're quality people and you want them back and you want the next people coming in will be equally qualified. Some registrars I've met in other towns, I wouldn't want to call them qualified. Somehow they got the job for connection reasons. But our people are super and they're still motivated and hope to keep them doing that down the road. Thank you.
Very good.
I go aside a little bit here.
But you hit it right at 5 minutes, so it was good timing. You hit it right at 5 minutes.
Have I passed my red line?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and I was going to praise you, Joe. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Joe just found 5 more minutes. Yeah.
No one ever does it, so don't go breaking that rule, okay? Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Save the best for last.
My name is Mary Jane Parlow, 83 Farmington Chase, Farmington. I wish to speak in favor of the registrar's request for salary increase and stipends this evening. Just going to give a little background, which most of you know. I started working as an election worker in around 2010 for Barbara Brenneman. After a few years, she asked me to be her deputy registrar. At that time, I was still working, so I wasn't coming in at all, mostly after school for whatever she needed me for. There weren't a lot of jobs we did at that time. So I would come, do whatever she asked me to do, and just never got paid because I didn't know it was a paid position, and I don't think it was. No problem. All right. So unfortunately, in September of 2021, Barbara had a stroke, and I began to fill in for her, not knowing how she was going to do, whether she would come back or not. Her family decided she would not come back. So I filled in for her, and it was decided that I would take over for her position. And I was paid $21.96 an hour. That was a lot of money. For me, that was a lot of money. I think it was more than I was getting for teaching. So knowing that the position was a 15-hour-a-week position, I started redoing the weekly duties, coming in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, doing what I could do. And I was given great support by Ed Leary, and the manager, Kathy Blonsky, and her staff would support me in anything that I needed help with. Little by little, as the November election came, we realized that Barbara was not coming back, and I would have to take over this now November election, the big November election. So I was paid weekly. I came in more and more because Ed and I couldn't get all the work done in 15 minutes. You can't get all the machines tested and all the workers trained and get the workers first to train them. And so it was an ongoing learning experience for me. Learning how to do the canvas, what Beth referred to, learning how to do registrations, removing people, and you had to get these people done because at elections, they have to be off the list or on the list. So you have to do it within that required time period. There were also all the other daily issues that had to be dealt with. So in August, I was taken off the hourly rate and put on the salary rate. I don't know whether that was good or bad because I really never looked at the check. It just went in my checking account. Doing all of that, I decided not to seek the registrar's office for 22 to 24. Not because I didn't appreciate it and I didn't like it, and the town really was very good to me. I knew what the future looked like for the registrars. Big changes were coming, and big changes did come. Early voting, training everyone, going to the convalescent homes, and all the other extras that we really don't know about that we have to do every day. And the learning process was a great curve. You learned, and then you learned what you needed to get done to get by, which was fine. I am now the deputy registrar for Beth Kittner, and I do help Ann in the office. And it's a lot of work because I've come from deputy registrar, now back to deputy registrar, and the deputy registrar could be there every day because it's the paperwork that kills you. It's constant paper, catching up. And you never catch up because you always got the next thing to do. So I do hope that you will consider what the registrars are asking for. I think they deserve it. I think that they work very hard, over, above, and beyond. And I think that that's what we should do. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it, and have fun deciding.
Thank you very much. Anybody else inside would like to make public comment? Anybody online? If you're online, please raise your hand.
I don't see any hands raised.
All right. Then we will move on. We will close out public comment and we'll go to G.
Make a motion to accept the December 10th, 2024 regular town council meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We will go to written communications and appeals. We have none. Report of committees, 1928 committee. We have nothing new to report today. We'll move over to bicycle advisory committee.
All right, thank you very much. We have quite a few things to mention about what we're doing in 2025 and what we've been doing all of last year. One of the things you know that we're doing is we have an RFP that's going to be going out this first quarter for design of the cup handle for the Trails grant that we received. So I guess that's already in play, Kathy, is that correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We also have the water cooler in play, right?
Do you mean the water fountain?
The water fountain, yes.
I think that's done.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I heard it was going to happen after the leaves. We just didn't talk about it.
Yeah,
So.
yep, my understanding that it is.
Okay, we will let the water flow.
Perfect.
Riders and pedestrians will be very happy to hear that.
Yep.
We also have some new signage which has been approved. We have 3 signs that are going to go in the flats to remind drivers to slow down and give some bikers space by 3 feet as they ride on the road. And we also are going to have your speed sign on 177 to remind people of just how fast they're going and to please be aware of bicyclers and pedestrians because they're out there and there's so much more distracted driving out there these days. We also have in the planning stages for for the beginning of next year, some bike repair classes and some commuter and traveling classes. So we want to make sure that education is going to be one of the key things that we do in 2025 for the general public and for school kids and for families who want to enjoy biking on the trails and in our community. We also have some web updates that will make our page more streamlined and more user-friendly with new and more up-to-date information and maps. So that's what we have going, and you will hear more in the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you. High School Building Committee.
I don't have anything new to report since my last report, but our next meeting is tomorrow at 5 p.m. in the library at the high school.
Thank you. Green Efforts.
Green efforts. I sat in for Amy at the meeting on 1/7, and the biggest thing coming out of that meeting was that planning has begun in earnest for the annual townwide cleanup, which is Saturday, April 26th. As always, we're hoping to make this year's cleanup have the most participation of all residents. So form a team, go solo. You can start cleaning up officially for that contest, I think, the week of, or actually, I think it's the beginning of April. John Bibbert was letting us all know you could start cleaning up whenever you want. But April 1st for the contest. Keep your bags. Go and weigh them on the 26th. We're going to have prizes, gift cards, and things like that. It'll be fun, and then it makes the town clean. The next meeting is Tuesday, February 4th at 7 p.m.
Thanks. This would be a true Team Bibbert type of...
Well, John smoked me last year. I mean, he was collecting he came in with like hundreds of pounds, so...
Thank you. So we'll go to report J, report of the chair. So again, as we just heard from our registrars and deputies, thank you very much. We will have a sit down. I think it's time for us to sit down, overgo your work scope, your workload, your responsibilities have definitely changed in the last couple of years. And again, thank you both, actually all four of you, for all your hard work in this past election. I know it couldn't be easy running all those hours and days, so thank you. So I talked to everybody, and I think what we'd like to do is work with the registrars to update their job description, which will include their scope of duties and responsibilities. Obviously, today we started to get a little clear understanding of their hours that are going to be needed and dedicated from today on forward. Help prepare salary recommendations. I was asked the town manager and her staff, as you guys did, to look around and see what other towns are doing. So thank you very much for giving us some of that homework already. And with the assistance of our staff, the registrar of voters, if anybody, Patty, Brian, or Dave, please let me know after the meeting if you'd like to be part of this group with myself as we sit down and figure this out. I'd like to get everything done before our February meeting so we can get it all done at that point. And for the rest of my report, second installment of real estate business and personal taxes are due. The final day to pay without penalty for January installment bills is February 3rd, 2025. Town offices will be closed on Monday, the 20th of January, observance of Martin Luther King Day. Regular hours of operation will resume Tuesday, the 21st at 8:30 p.m. For town residents, trash collection service for Christmas trees started yesterday, and this will go on for 2 weeks. And we celebrate a nice happy birthday for K9 Nash on January 8th. He is a big, I think, 3 years old? So happy birthday to Nash.
21, man, he's legal.
Dog years, absolute. And please continue all town business events on Explore Farmington. And we'll move on to...
So, Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question, if I may?
Okay.
Under reports of committees, do we have a chance to ask anybody? I know, like, the 1928 committee, and there was another committee, and...
No, we usually just do the reports.
Okay. But, like, there wasn't anything reported on the 1928, like, is it the same as it was a month ago?
Yeah, we didn't have a meeting. It was canceled because everything's still going on.
Got it.
We're in the process of signing the contract with the
KBE?
Yep, KBE. So
Okay.
we're working on that, and we're going to meet in, when is our next meeting, Kat?
The end of the month.
End of the month. So we canceled the mid-meeting, and we have the meeting at the end of the month instead. The contract's about 99.99% ready to go, and then we're going to have a kickoff meeting at the end of the month, and that date is January
28th.
28th.
Okay.
That's where we are.
Okay. And then on the high school committee, can I ask a question? Or am I out of order? I mean, you're looking like I'm out of order.
Well, yeah, we usually do the reports of the reports.
Okay. Then
I
I'll
appreciate if there's
okay.
anything of importance we can
Okay.
hammer out after. Thank you. Board Liaison of Education.
Board of Ed met last night. What they discussed, what I hope would be what will be a really helpful service of a pilot program to bring Connecticut behavioral health into the high school. Essentially, this would be at no cost to the school district, and it will be bringing therapists, making therapists available in a place in the high school to meet with students, faculty, staff. This is your traditional therapy. It's your ongoing weekly type sessions. Essentially, it saves parents from having to pick up their kid and take them to a therapist and take time off of work or just for saves transportation. It has a therapist in the school. This is separate from what are the existing services. Existing school services provide school-based supports, whereas this would be more of your traditional therapy. And the Connecticut Behavioral Health provides clinicians and work, and essentially the school's obligation is to cooperate and provide a meeting space for these students. The board also began budget discussions. There was a presentation about the technology budget, and the drivers for the technology budget are increasing licensing costs, cybersecurity, and restoration of ESSER of items that have been funded by ESSER in the past. They also discussed the major projects that are anticipated for 25-26 that will be out of the operating budget. And then they voted on the capital projects plan, unanimous support for the proposed capital projects, which will be presented to Town Council in February when we discuss the capital budget, the capital plan. The next meeting is January 27th, and the full budget meeting for the Board of Ed is Saturday, February 1st at 9 a.m.
Thank you very much. Conservation Inland Wetlands.
Conservation Inland Wetlands met last week. Yes, last week. There was a hearing regarding the Batterson Park proposal from the city of Hartford. This is the plan to open up the park and make it fully accessible to the public. As a note, there will be no swimming. The water quality does not meet standards for swimming, but they are proposing boating dock for canoe and kayak that will be held by Riverfront Recapture. There'll be multi-use trails, and it's contemplating the restoration of some of the wetlands that are currently paved. The public hearing was close to 2 hours, and they extended the hearing to the next meeting, which is January 22nd. They also heard 2 other applications for more routine types of wetland activities, including Tunxus Country Club had a proposal to restore a culvert in the area, and that required the commission's approval, and it passed.
Thank you. Farmington Historic District. I'm sorry, EDC. Economic Development.
The meeting for EDC was, I'm sorry. They're working on a lot of different things right now. Nothing really to report at this time, though.
All right, thank you. Farmington Historic District.
All right, thank you. That's our December meeting was canceled, so at the January meeting, which will be next Tuesday at 5 o'clock right here, we'll be doing the election and installation of new officers. We're continuing to discuss the expansion report, which is underway in making the historic district a little larger. And I want to thank all the citizens in the historic district who continue to work with the Historic Commission to make sure that we keep it a historic village, and they're working on making sure that everything is in line with, the historic requirements of the village. There have been some installations that they're looking at that aren't quite up to what they want to be, so we're trying to stay true to what we expect our village to be, and I think everyone's doing an excellent job, and I thank the community for staying involved in that.
Excellent, thank you very much. Human Relations.
The Human Relations Committee has been meeting roughly every other month. In particular, the Social Media Subcommittee has been very active in making posts on Facebook, and they're working on an initiative to feature local restaurants, or Restaurant of the Month, primarily for diversity and inclusion, focusing on more ethnic restaurants and bringing folks into the community and giving folks an opportunity to talk about their businesses and their food that they offer. And they are also exploring other opportunities to promote inclusion and encourage learning about other people and other cultures. One of the things they're considering is it's referred to as a human library. Essentially, it's set up at your public library, and people volunteer to talk to. They're generally think of the person as a book, and you sign up for a slot, and borrowing the book means you go talk to that person for an hour, and you can ask them basically anything you want. It's supposed to be like open book, an opportunity to learn about different people that, whether they're veterans or someone of a different culture or religion, and it's just a way to try to expand knowledge and make people more knowledgeable. I don't know. I'm losing my words. They also discuss the annual Human Rights Day award recipient, and that should be announced soon. And then the finally, the Youth Advisory Committee is seeking high school students to participate approximately 8 hours a year. And the next meeting is Monday, February 10th at 6 p.m.
Thank you very much. Library Board.
Library Board met December 18th. Very business as usual meeting. A lot of work being done right now in the strategic plan for the libraries coming into this year. The thing I wanted to make sure I highlighted was that Makers Fair, which was really successful last year and a really fun event for kids of all ages, adults too, will be held Sunday, March 23rd from 1 to 4 p.m. So put that on your calendar and don't miss out. Next meeting is tomorrow night via Zoom.
Thank you. That was a good time last year at the Makers event. Town Planning and Zoning.
Town Planning and Zoning met last night. That would be January 13th. And I would say the big takeaway on the meeting was the City of Hartford application for a special permit for improvements at Batterson Park, including a new driveway, parking areas, park support buildings, boardwalk, and picnic areas located at 95 Batterson Park. This has got a lot of momentum. Obviously, Patty had talked to the Conservation and Inland Wetlands application that they have. They presented their plan last night to TPZ in a public hearing. In addition, Riverfront Recapture was there. And I think that's the special piece now, that Riverfront Recapture has been kind of handed the management of the park. So through the passport system of the state, Riverfront Recapture will be fully funded to actually skillfully manage the park, like they do up in Hartford at the four different areas that they have up there. So there was some comment. There was some comment online. There was some comment in the chamber, and the public hearing got continued to January 27th, the next meeting, 2 weeks from yesterday. And I think they have a little more homework to do and answer some questions that the commissioners had. But I would say that right now it's positioned very well as far as what they've presented and how they're going to manage the park. The one thing that they did say yesterday, if the approvals in Farmington were affirmative, that they would be looking at starting the work in 2025, in the spring of 2025. And that's what I have to report.
Excellent. Thank you. It'd be a great piece to get open again for not only for Farmington, but for the surrounding communities. Unionville Historic District.
The Unionville Historic District has been working with some of the homeowners within that district on home improvements, and they've got a few projects going. And other than that, that's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you. And Water Pollution Control Authority.
The most recent meeting was last Wednesday. The thing that I wanted to report is that Mark Batorsky, the superintendent of the WPCA, left for another opportunity last month out of state. And so we're looking to replace him. He was a great superintendent, so I know there are big shoes to fill, but we're looking to get him replaced.
All right, thank you. Yes, he was a great asset to the town, a good employee. He will definitely be missed. And we are skipping 10 to Unionville Village Improvement Association since it doesn't exist. Okay. Report of the town manager.
You have your, the written report in the packet, but the first thing, again, it's customary to invite our legislators to our February meeting, so I was planning on doing that to talk about the upcoming state budget. I left in your places, it's not a change, but I thought if you maybe wanted a hard copy, is the upcoming budget schedule. So that was in the packet, but I also just left you a hard copy. And just that the ad hoc fire station committee and the ad hoc sidewalk committee will be established at this meeting, I'm hopeful. And it's my intent to try to hold the first meetings on Tuesday, January 28th. So after we find out who the committee members are, I'll reach out and we'll try to schedule those meetings on the 28th, and then we'll establish meeting schedules after that.
Excellent. And we have, I believe, for the sidewalks, we'll have Brian and Keith, correct? And for the fire departments, will be Dave and Amy.
Very good.
Excellent. Thank you. Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to accept the town manager's report?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We'll move to appointments. Dave, do you have any appointments by any chance?
No appointment.
All right. We'll go to,
L21.
there you go.
Make a motion that Amy Palumbo be appointed as liaison to the library board and be removed as member chair of the Green Efforts Committee effective immediately.
Second?
Motion and a second, and again, that is for the schedule conflict. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion that Keith Vibert be appointed as a member chair of the Green Efforts Committee and the removed as liaison to the library committee.
Second?
Motion and second. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. On to M. Do we have any old business? No. So we'll go to N1, please.
N1, make a motion to set a public hearing for February 25th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in town, on the town manager's proposed 7-year capital improvement plan.
Second.
Motion and second. Kathy?
Just the typical schedule, we'll have the public hearing first, the Board of Education will come in and go through their capital plan, and then the town departments will come in. Typically, we do not take any action on the capital plan, and then we address it again in mid-March, but we get through that, so that's helpful for us when we go through the budget season.
Excellent. And we do questions, or that's just basically presentations?
Nope, we do questions, we go through it in detail.
Perfect. Any questions for Kathy? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
N2, make a motion to request the Town Planning and Zoning Commission review the Meadow Road Sidewalk Project for a report under Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statutes.
Second.
Motion and second. Kathy?
If you remember, the town received a small town economic assistance program, a STEEP grant for funding to install a sidewalk on Meadow Road in Farmington, beginning at the intersection of New Britain Avenue and Meadow Road and continuing to Wisteria Lane. Town staff has completed the design of the new sidewalk. The next phase of the project requires that the town council send the project to a TPZ for an 8-24 report. Just for information, an 8-24 report is needed because we are making improvements to a roadway with the sidewalk. The town is also in the process of submitting the project to Inland Wetlands Commission. After that approval per Chapter 16932, Article C-E, the next steps in the process will be a public hearing for the abutting property owners. So we are moving along with this project.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. N3.
Yeah, I know. I just have a different N3 because I printed it off before. So I got it. To make a motion to approve the 2025 blighted building list.
Second.
Motion second. Kathy?
As you can see, we have the 4 items on the, that we're recommending for the blight list, and there's quite a bit of notes on each one of them, and I'm recommending that they stay on the blight list.
Any questions? Quite extensive. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And four, make a motion to consider and take action on the budget targets for the 2025-2026 fiscal year.
Second.
Motion and second. Kathy?
As you can see, I did attach some information for you to review. That is the tax rate history, adopted expenditures, the 5-year expenditure average, general fund CIP allocation history, expenditures versus tax rate, and the financial forecast. Just as you know, in the past, the town council has set budget targets for the town manager and for the Board of Education. At times, the town council has set expenditure targets, and other times an overall tax rate target was given. In recent years, the town council has set a specific expenditure target. All information is not compiled for the budget, including revenues and state aid is not available. In creating the town manager's budget, there are several factors that I review as we start each budget season. First, I look at fund accounts at levels that will enable service levels to remain at high standards. Second, I review the entire budget with cost-saving measures. And lastly, I review potential budget drivers. Below is information that may be helpful as you review the possible targets. Cost of living, our collective bargaining contracts. We have two, our police, which is a large bargaining unit, and fire. Our other contracts are about 3%. Last year's budget appropriation of $1.2 million from fund balance as a revenue line item. Consideration must be given on how that appropriation will be handled in the fiscal year 25-26. Last year's budget funded a recreation director for a position for half a year. This fiscal year, 25-26, it's expected to have funds for this position for the entire fiscal year. As we know that the municipal offices are expected to move up to the new town hall in early 2026. As a result, funds must be included in the fiscal year 25-26 to operate and maintain both the new town hall and this town hall annex. And then just obviously, I talked about the cost of living, but just inflation. I mean, everyone has the same thing that they're going through at their homes. Things are expensive. Utilities are expensive. Everything's expensive right now. So there is some budget drivers going on right now. We just started the town side of the budget to go through things. But right now, I don't think that based on our strategic plan, I don't think there's any true, real new initiatives that are being driven through the budget, except that we do have a full year of the recreation director, which is in the budget, and that we're going to be running for half a year, both this building and a new town hall, which is obviously going to be a driver and something different.
Okay, so again, we're discussing the budget targets. We're not looking at the tax increase number. Any questions, Brian? Statements, comments?
Actually, just a question that's not on the page, but when are we up for revaluation? Is there any consideration of doing that?
Revaluation it's not next year, Joe, it's the year after, correct? And then we will see money in the capital because we are going to start the process, but the actual reval where it's going to be the effect is not next year, it's the year after.
Okay, yeah, I know it had a huge impact on us a couple of years ago. Is there any advantage to doing it sooner than that to kind of help even things out a little bit?
I don't think by law you can even do that, but I don't think there is an advantage,
you
no.
can't? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The way housing prices are, I doubt it. They're still climbing. Patty, you have anything?
I don't really have questions right now. I want to say, Kathy, I appreciate the bulleted list here. It's helpful in terms of guiding information about what you anticipate is coming forward, and I do think this helps to guide this discussion. We don't have this information yet about the Board of Ed needs, and I think with the budget being, I'm doing really quick math in my head. It's what, 65% Board of Ed?
66, yeah.
66% Board of Ed. I think it's challenging to set a target without really knowing what the needs are. I believe and understand that from part of the discussions last night at the Board of Ed meetings, special ed services are going to continue to be a very significant driver. And I'm hesitant to set a target that binds the board or without knowing more information about what the board needs. And I know the word binds is the wrong word, so don't jump on me on that one because I know it doesn't bind them. use the, but I think it's important as town council that we have an opportunity to consider and understand the full scope of needs. And I think a lot of times there's this pressure when a target is set to come in at that target or as close as possible to it.
Sarah.
I have, I think, a couple questions. The first is my understanding correct that we used everything we had from the fund balance in the past budget, the 1.2? Was that all? Because I remember the prior year we didn't end up using it. Did we use it all?
We're still in the process of being in the year, but it looks like we are going to use the majority of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, I know when we look at the average of the spending increases, the 5-year averages that are on page, I think it's well, actually, I don't know what page it is. But it has the Board of Ed at a 3.28 increase and the town at a 2.89 increase. That's the average over the 5 years. And does that, then when you're looking at those averages, does that equate to the 5.36 tax increase on the projected tax increase change? I'm not asking that question right. I guess my question is, how do you get to the 5.36 projected tax increase in the 25-26 budget? What's that number based on?
And you're talking about in the forecast.
The forecast.
Yeah, that's based on their averages, right, Joe? So on the town side, what is it? What did you put in? 2.89.
89.
0.89.
Okay. So I know we had the discussion about targets last year, similar to what you just brought up, Patty. And we had the same kind of discussion along lines of, is it good to have a target before we have, we know all the information? And I tend to think it's good to have a target. No one gets held to it. You're not to attack you. But
Yes.
you're not
Not to bind
bound-
them,
you're
not to
not
bind
bound
them,
by
right?
it, and we certainly didn't, no one was bound by it last year, if I remember our discussion. So I think I'm in favor of having a target. I think it's a good idea to at least have some realistic understanding of what the numbers are, because even if we look at just this 5-year average, we go with a 3.2 to the board and a 2.8, the 2.9 for the town, you're looking at already a projected mill rate increase of over 5%. So I think it's good to have this discussion now and kind of have a sense of where we think our target should be, with the understanding that, obviously we're going to see more detail on what everyone's going to say. But that's sort of what my position is.
All right. Dave.
Well, I definitely value what Patty said, because obviously that's kind of where I was last year. Although I think the target is a little more realistic than it was last year when we were talking about targets. So I kind of am with Sarah on this, where I do think this target is been built in a way that is fairly accurate, and that doesn't mean it's going to come in. We're going to have to do our work on this to see what we can do to drive this thing to where, we don't just necessarily take that as a given. But this particular target I'm okay with.
All right. Amy.
I'm good with the targets, too. I think that everybody's point is pretty much the same. It's better to have a target and try to stick to it.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, anecdotally, just working with the library board, I know that they specifically asked where I thought their target would be, because they said it makes it easier to forecast and to prioritize needs. So I think that that's a key thing about a target too. So, and the reason I would do it beforehand is because, these areas of town that are in control of forecasting their budgets are going to know more about what their priorities are than we will. So if we can set a target and have them sort of work to prioritize, when we talk to them, we'll be able to feel more comfortable that they're getting what they need. And then obviously, again, not to beat a dead horse, but we set targets last year, I think, too, and there were still departments that came in over target. So I think people do feel comfortable coming over if their needs are above and beyond the targets that we were at. So I agree with where Sarah was at and what's in our forecast here.
All right. I do think we stick to the targets. I know it makes it a little difficult, but it's easy, I think, to always add stuff in at the end instead of trying to keep on cutting at the end. You know, go through that exercise, see what's a want, what's a need, and go ahead and present those budgets to us. You know, the hard part is being the financial body. We all want to be, you know, giving away things to make everybody happy and keep everything going. But in the other aspect too, we got to stay mindful and do the job that we're elected to try to keep our tax rate low, keep our elderly, our handicapped, our veterans, our single parents, our parents, everybody in a good standing that they're able to be comfortable living in our community and prosper in our community.
If I could just say one thing, I would say it's somewhat of a mischaracterization about if you don't have a target, you're kind of giving away things. I think what Patty, my colleague's talking about, is driving a budget that has the information presented and then coming up. So I would just say that I'm all for this target because I said the target's fairly accurate. But I do understand where Patty's coming from because you build something from knowledge, and necessarily targets are sometimes things that are just artificially put in place, and then, you know, you don't want that necessarily to be the driving force, right? So I would just take exception a little bit to the mischaracterization that we're giving things away if you don't have a target.
No, I didn't like give it away. I mean, it's like, it's always a give them, like put them back into the budget.
Okay.
So they come in and say, at this level, we're losing this, this, and this. And then we can prioritize what's a true need and what's a want.
Got it.
All right. Anything else? Kathy?
Just so I can have some clarity and make sure everyone understands and I understand. So, Keith, one thing you said is sometimes the departments come in. I typically never come in.
Not your department.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that.
I was trying not to single any.
Yeah, no, but I just
portion
wanted to
of the
make
budget
sure
out.
that it's clear that you expect me to come in on the target. That's what I typically do.
The goal is for everybody to,
Come
yeah.
in,
Yes.
and that with the understanding that, just so we're all clear, is that even though we've just gone through the budget based on inflation and based on what we've seen and based on the needs, we are going to see it's going to be very, very difficult to meet that target.
Sure.
But I do like having a target. It gives me some direction, and typically what I do is what we're going to be missing based on the fact by keeping at that target. And I'll give an understanding to the council on what the different things are. But I do not think just based on inflation, the cost of living in our contracts to keeping us under 3%, we are going to be able to maintain the same service level that we have right now. But I think that, like, I tend to agree that it's easier to put things back in and you have a list and we can prioritize it. But I just wanted to make sure that we're all clear on that a target that's in here is going to be very difficult to meet and keep the service levels the same with the drivers we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, Keith?
All right, so to be clear, I'm going on Joe's number, or what we talking?
3.2 for the Board of Ed and a 3 for the town.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I'd like to make a motion to set the budget target for the 2025. I'll get there. It's warming up. I'd like to make a motion to set the budget targets for the 2025-2026 fiscal year for the Board of Education at 3.2% and the town services side at 3%.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. 5.
Okay, all right, I'm with you. 5. I'd like to make a motion to establish a town council ad hoc fire station committee.
Second.
Motion is second. Kathy?
You have the motion, and again, it would be to work with the town staff to conduct a comprehensive review of the facility studies, the costs, the needs of the fire stations in town. The ad hoc committee will be charged with the following: review all study reports, facilities, and cost of each fire station, meet with the fire chiefs to understand their needs and and specifics of their departments, review of the town fire department long-term financial forecast, creating a statement of needs. We're going to create the statement of needs and propose a building committee charge and budget. And I think you mentioned it before, but Keith, just to add in, it would be Dave and Amy are the members, and then the listing of the rest of the members that are there. Right?
Correct, yep. Any questions for Kathy for the fire department? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Oh. Make a motion to establish a town council ad hoc sidewalk committee to work with town staff, review the existing sidewalk ordinance, and report community survey results and recommended ordinance changes to the town council.
Second.
Motion and second, Kathy.
And to appoint the members, myself from town council, Mr. Connolly from town council, everybody,
And the town staff,
and the town staff.
as listed.
There you go. In a second.
Second.
That covered it pretty much.
Yeah, and you can see with the charge, I hope I added some of the things that were talked about at the last meeting, but it would be to review the existing sidewalk ordinance and study sidewalk ordinances in other towns, determine what percentage of the town currently has sidewalks, educate the community on the current ordinance and process, hold public meetings, create questions, and hire a consultant to survey the community to gauge interest in new sidewalks, a town-funded sidewalk program, and the community's willingness to pay, develop and include preliminary cost estimates for various options of town-wide funded sidewalk program, work with Town Planning and Zoning Commission and town departments as needed, and report back to the full town council of the results of the survey and community input.
Great. Yes.
Would the council be open to amending item 7 to report back to the town council on items 1 through 6?
To report back to the council on the results of the survey. So you want to, all of them, so review, so.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a full report on all those, but that way those items are captured in whatever is reported back to the council.
Yeah, I think that's a given, but we can put that in.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anything else?
So just so it would report back to the full town council on items
All the
1
action
through 6.
items.
All the action items and the results of the survey. Yep,
Perfect.
got it.
And thanks, Kathy. This is a really good summary of what we discussed and a list of from our last meeting.
Perfect. Thanks, you, Patty.
Thank you, Patty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion to approve the attached property tax refunds.
You're one ahead.
And 7.
Oh, come on, man. This is, I so well with those soccer kids' names, and I'm just, I'm just losing every time. Make a motion to cancel the January 28, 2025 regular town council meeting.
Second.
Motion second. Kathy.
So we're going to cancel that meeting, but we're planning on having our ad hoc committees that night. And then we'll get a meeting scheduled for the ad hoc committees after that.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Number 8, to approve the attached property tax refunds.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. We have no executive session. So I want to thank everybody for tonight, wish everybody a happy new year, and we'll call for an adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn the January 14th, 2025 regular town council meeting.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.